We're going to jump back in with our next guest and pick back up where we left off on Encourage and Inspire. And I've got with me again today Miss Angie Gallimore, and we will be picking back up with where we left off. How are you, Angie?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
Well, I mean, it's just been crazy.
We've had an adventurous night, hadn't we?
I started out this morning. I tried to do a Facebook Live, and then I did the whole, it was beautiful. It was perfect, but it was no sound. So it was just, and then I had to do it over, and then squirrels were throwing nuts at me from up there. And then, now Kevin out here playing Clark Griswold about sets all of West Paris on fire.
Right.
Trying to get lights out here. And then we're in here in the dark.
And we improvised.
We did improvise.
Yes, we improvised.
We did.
We will not be stopped.
But one of the best things was that we got to learn a little bit more about Tori.
Yes, that was good.
Yeah, and we didn't share all that with everybody, but glad to have Terry on board. Tori come on, and I think maybe we might get maybe a song and a dance at some point out of her.
I like that idea.
I do too.
Yeah. She's a multifaceted person. She has a lot to share.
She does. Speaking of sharing.
Yes.
Where are we? We're coming back to resentment.
Yes. So, it would be awesome if we could just, like we do in a little Facebook Live, 3 or 5 minutes, share about resentment and it just be finished with, But resentment is a feeling somewhere between anger and disappointment over a perceived wrong. So it may not be a real thing that's even happened, but we perceive it as we perceive that we have been wronged. And then a lot of times it just spirals out of control from there.
And that's one of the things that we wanted to do, was be able to bring this up as a topic, because this is a stressful time. And why is it's stressful for people going into the holidays? It should be fun. It should be energetic. It should be filled with joy. But a lot of times it seems that people have resentment about with their family, unfortunately.
Right.
And that's what we were hoping that we could do, is share with them about resentment and how it steals from you, and maybe some ways that they could release some of that resentment so they could enjoy the holidays.
Yes, exactly. So, what we deal with families a lot of times, it could be a marriage situation that has ended, or it could just be stress in a marriage that is causing there to be resentment at the holidays. But it could be siblings that don't get along, parents that have done something that causes there to be resentment. And one of the first things that we all need to do is communicate. Communicate instead of letting things build up. And
aren't we all seem to be like with resentment? And you said about communicate and build up. You said something the very first time about living rent free in somebody's head.
Right.
And that's kind of where we put ourselves, isn't it? Whenever we have that resentment, that the other person doesn't even know a lot of times that there's anything wrong, or the group, or the other. You were talking about expectations and how that kind of plays into the resentment part.
Right. So, it's funny. We get together with our family. We have in our mind the way we think something should be ideally. And we know our own family's problems. We know how everything didn't work out like we wanted it to for that day or for our life in general or whatever. And we start to be angry at somebody else because we kind of blame it on them a little bit. And but one thing we don't realize is that, and I know a lot of people have heard this before, but we forget it. What we know about our situation, we compare to what we don't know about somebody else's situation. And we think everybody else out there has all this stuff going on, figured out, it's ideal. They're getting along, they're loving each other, they're playing games after lunch, you know, they're taking the pictures outside of the fun things that are going on, and we're like, my family doesn't do any of that. You know, and that's a silly example, but I mean, that's the way it is in general with resentment, is that we don't know what's going on behind somebody else's closed door. And a lot of times we resent our spouse or our parents because we're putting expectations on them that they don't know about and that are unrealistic. So
where's my Hallmark movie? I want my Hallmark movie Thanksgiving or Christmas, right?
Right. And a big thing that would benefit us all is to realize that we could let the pressure off, for one, and realize we have this one life to live.
That's
to
right.
enjoy each other, to enjoy even ourselves, to figure out what we love and enjoy it. And not put so much pressure on each other, on our children to be perfect, our spouse to be perfect, our parents, our brothers and sisters.
Oh, God.
Everybody comes together and we don't believe the same things, you know, but
siblings.
Yeah, but we have this one life to enjoy each other, to have a good time together at these family gatherings, and so let stuff go.
You got to let it go. It can be difficult, and some things can be traumatic. It can be real. It could derive from real events, real things that have happened, and it's not something that maybe you had any control over. But it took place, and maybe, you know, you got in a fight with your brother at Christmas and you knocked over the Christmas tree because of resentment, because he was special and he was a younger brother and you didn't like the way he was talking. So you got in a fight at Christmas and knocked over the Christmas tree. That can happen.
Can that happen?
That can happen. That kind of stuff can happen. But you know, you got to put that stuff behind you.
That's right.
Yeah.
and be glad you got a good story later on down the road.
I'm just glad that I have an awesome brother. Because, you know, if we were to live in that moment for the rest of our lives, one, you know, my mom forgave me, I think that that's probably been forgiven. But, you know, it was, you know, just being silly. And that was a young thing, you know, like 21, you know, like young. No, it was younger than that, but maybe a little bit younger, maybe 17, but it wasn't much younger than that. But also, like, I think about some of the things that I've gone through. I'm the only one in my family that's been divorced. Well, I take that back. Not the only one, but the only one with children that was divorced. And, you know, the resentment goes a lot of different directions. It can go from, you know, my children resenting me for being resentful of the situation.
Yes,
you know?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I've been thinking about how our resentment affects our children.
Definitely does.
Yeah, I've seen so many examples of a parent who holds grudges and is resentful about things and bitter, and it overflows into their kids. Their kids pick up those thought patterns, the ways of handling situations and just hanging on to stuff and being able to remember that and bring it up whenever they need it. we just don't think about how what we're doing in front of our children, how they're going to hang on to it and they're going to carry it through their life unless they get some help. Therapy,
Absolutely. So, the resentment that I would carry, for what I felt was something that happened to me, and I didn't deal with it really well for a long time. And then, you begin to wonder, well, why don't my kids now want to participate in the holidays? It can have long-lasting impacts and unintended impacts on the people around us. We tend to live right here that we're the most important thing in the world, but in reality, we're influencing and affecting a lot of other people. Even when we get over our hurt, we still got these other little kids who aren't little anymore that have to remember to bring them along. So it can be deep issues, and it could be also like, sometimes I resent the fact that I don't get to go first in the Thanksgiving line,
Yeah.
So because my sisters, especially you, Jennifer, you run right to the front and you get right in the front of the line, and it's like nobody else can go, and I want to go first, but it can be little.
Yeah.
But it can still, cause some, anxiety. Like, I want to go first this time. But,
maybe they'll let you go first on your birthday.
Yeah. But it comes in all shapes, forms, and fashions. And I kind of bring that up in jest because I think you had said something about resentment and about not being able to see the resentment or not really realizing what's happening, where it's coming, or even the interaction, because we don't always understand what all is at play with the person that's coming into the family event, or why somebody's not wanting to participate in a family event. And it could very well be our own actions that are repelling other members of our own family.
Right. Yeah. Even in families where you would look and think that, oh, they're the ideal family, everybody's happy, such a big, happy, nice family. No. Every family has issues, and that's why it's important to learn to appreciate each other's differences and to accept one another for who we are. Because just like I was saying a little bit ago, when you're younger, you can be so idealistic about beliefs and the way people should be and situations in life. But the older we get, the more relaxed we get as far as accepting other people and loving other people, because we've been through things that help us realize, man, I don't even think like I used to.
Oh, no.
And so that's why it's important to accept people where they are, to love your family members, love your friends, build those relationships, and let resentment go. And if it's something that you need to talk about, then talk about it.
Yeah.
And if you need to talk about it with humility and respect for the other person and love, and without an expectation that they're going to get it, because they may not get it.
That's
what
right.
You're trying to share. But you've said what you need to, and there's the serenity prayer. God, give me the courage to, I think I'm going to say it right, accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Absolutely.
So I didn't get the first part right, but y'all get the gist of it. I mean, there's things that you can change, there's things that you can't, and what we need to do is figure those two things out and accept people and accept ourselves. One big thing about accepting other people is there is a verse in the Bible that talks about having a log in your eye,
I've heard that one.
Yes, and it says to examine yourself and get the log out of your eye before you try to get that little speck of sawdust out of somebody else's eye. And it's a funny image because it's like you got a 2x4 that's like sticking out, you know, and you're looking around at everybody else and
try
bam,
to get in there
hitting
close.
everybody with your 2x4.
Kind of hard to get in there.
Yeah, because you're trying to get to something little in them. And having the ability to examine ourselves and see our own faults can take us a long way in building relationships with others. So
it certainly can. And boy, I tell you, it took me a while. It really did. And I would be upset about, you know, not being able to have things on Thanksgiving, you know, because we had other places where the kids had to go. They had to go to my ex-wife's family, or we couldn't coordinate. And you know, there was some Thanksgivings, you know, I spent alone. And not because my parents didn't want me there, but, you know, we just didn't have anything going on, and there I was. And the resentment was real to me, but the kids didn't know any different.
right,
And the only person that was hurting or upset during all that time was me.
right,
And it took me a lot of years of trying to wrestle with it and figure out what to do. And the solution to it was, one, my ex-wife is a sweetheart. She's very open and nice, and you know, no issues there. I was the one that had closed everything off. Is that said, hey, why don't we just do Thanksgiving together? And it just, all of this stuff started falling away. It just started falling away, and was able to move into a situation where we started tailgating together at Mississippi State football games. We, you know, were sharing birthday parties together, and all of those things, Angie, I had missed out on with my children. And I was blaming something that was in the past for that, and not addressing the here and now.
right,
And the here and now was, Patrick, if you want to be with your kids, if you want to enjoy this time, there's nothing, the only person that's preventing it is you. And that was a hard thing for me to realize, because I was enjoying blaming,
right,
you know, and hurting and feeling sorry for myself.
right.
And
just imagine, like, if there is a family that doesn't do those things together, like you're saying, but the kids are going to go to one parent's house and then they've got to come to the other, instead of pouting because you didn't get Thanksgiving Day, and then when everybody shows up, you're in a bad mood and people are like, okay, this is why we didn't want to come over here, you know. Instead of being like that, be the one that when they show up at your house, you're gracious and you're happy and you're providing a fun atmosphere and you're laid back and easygoing and you're not throwing out sarcastic comments about things. You know,
I've dialed those way back. I've dialed those way back.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty good now.
Awesome.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, Thanksgiving Day, you know, you're off work. A lot of people are off work, maybe not everybody.
Right.
And it seems like the time, but man, that time is here and now. And it doesn't matter if it's Wednesday, if it's Friday, if it's December the 6th, whatever it is.
Right.
We just take all of that for granted, and we need to be focusing on the good and the happy, and the family. And
I guess maybe the last thing I want to say is just realize that hurt people. And a lot of times the reason that people have said or done some of the things that they've said or done to you about you, the way they've acted, whatever, is because they've been hurt in the past. And that's not an excuse, but if we'll get that log out of our eye, we'll probably realize that we've done the same thing to other people because we've been hurt. Hurt people. And once again, just bringing it back to the fact that we have this one life to live. We have these opportunities to spend with our family and friends. And even if we get to a point with certain family members that it's not possible to be with them, if you'll notice, there are probably friends and other family members who would love to spend time with you and who would love to enjoy your company. You can make new traditions. You can plan new things. You can do new events, new activities together. Everything doesn't have to be the cookie cutter Hallmark movie situation. We can find joy in life in all the situations that we're in and the things that we go through, and not waste the time that we have. So,
man, well said, Angie. Well said. And I think I've revisited my last 30 years, I think, preparing for this with you and re-examining, myself. And I have to tell you that if nobody else out there got anything from these shows that we've done in these segments, I certainly have gotten a ton out of this time and this reflection. And I definitely am more grateful today than I was yesterday.
right.
For my family, my health, this opportunity to be sitting right here today. And I want resentment to be, a thing of the past. And I'm so thankful that you came on to introduce this topic and get us going on it.
Yeah, I'm glad. I hope it's helpful.
I hope it's helped. I hope it's helped the viewers out there, people that are wondering about, hey, I don't want to go, but I hope you've had opportunity to do some reflection, and you'll be able to enjoy your family as well. Angie, I want to thank you for everything, and we are out of time.
All right.
So we're gonna close and say good day, Paris. Good night, and hopefully we'll get out of here without the power going out or any other craziness of the day. And I'd like to remind everybody, next week we'll be back here. We'll have Keith Carver, the Chancellor of UTM. So everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we want you to be sure, get rid of that resentment. Have a good day.